Hello there, my name is Richard McMahon, and in this tutorial I will teach you how to answer behavioural interview questions using the STAR technique. The STAR technique is situation, task, action and result, and it is a brilliant way to answer difficult behavioural interview questions. So if you have a job interview coming up anytime soon for any role or company, make sure you watch this presentation from start to finish. So the first behavioural interview question I want to teach you how to answer is, tell me about a time you had to work under pressure. Now this question comes up during 90% of job interviews, and the best answer is where you show the hiring manager you are capable of managing a large or unexpected workload, and despite you being under pressure, you still achieve your objective. So let me now give you a brilliant top scoring example answer to this difficult behavioural interview question that uses the STAR technique of situation, task, action and result. Tell me about a time you had to work under pressure. Here we go. I was working on a company project that had a tight deadline. My manager asked for a volunteer to complete the project of a co-worker who had to take a leave of absence due to personal reasons. I agreed to take on their project in addition to my own. It was my task to work on both projects consecutively, prioritise my workload and get everything finished on time. I assessed the workload of both projects, created a list of tasks in order of priority, blocked out my diary and set to work. Now, whenever I came across a task I had no experience in, I quickly researched how to do it, or I asked a co-worker for advice. And by working quickly and methodically, blocking out distractions and remaining calm, I was able to complete both projects successfully and on time. So that is a really good answer to that common behavioural interview question. Tell me about a time you had to work under pressure. And you can see how effective the STAR technique is: situation, task, action and result. Let me give you some other examples of working under pressure in the workplace, and you can then choose one which you have experience in. So, for example, you could say there was a customer who placed a very large order and it was late on a Friday afternoon. Now, the customer needs the order quickly and you don't have much time to get it ready for dispatch. Now, a co-worker suggests you leave the order until Monday morning, but you disagree. You want to get it done quickly to the benefit of the customer. So, you work quickly and methodically and still get the order prepared on time before the end of the working day. So that's a good example of working under pressure. Let me give you another one. So you've arranged a meeting at a local conference centre at the request of your manager. So you've organised the meeting. It's an important meeting because 20 people are due to attend. However, the day before the meeting, the conference centre calls to say they can't accommodate the meeting because there's been a leak in the meeting room. So you now have to work under pressure. You have to work quickly to find an alternative venue, and you then contact everyone to give them the new and updated meeting details. So there's two examples, additional examples of working under pressure. Don't forget to use the STAR technique when giving your answer. So the second behavioural interview question I want to help you answer is, tell me about a time you had to overcome a difficult problem. Again, this question comes up during 90% of job interviews. And the best answer is where you remain calm when faced with this difficult problem. You consider your options and then make the right decision that's in the best interests of the team or company. So let me now give you an example answer to this difficult behavioural interview question that uses the STAR technique: situation, task, action and result. Tell me about a time you had to overcome a difficult problem. When I started work in a previous job, I overheard a co-worker being rude and disrespectful to junior team members. It was my task to speak to him in private and outline the concerns I had about his actions. Now, this was a difficult situation because I was new to the team and I wanted to build good relationships with everyone. However, I wasn't prepared to ignore his comments. So I asked to speak to him in private. I remained calm and explained how I was surprised at some of his comments and that I felt they went against company policy. I told him he could end up in trouble if anyone in the team complained to management and that I didn't want that to happen. Although he was taken aback by my comments, he said that he understood my concerns and assured me he wouldn't say anything disrespectful again. Now that is a really good answer because it shows that you care for your co-workers and you are also prepared to challenge people who use rude and disrespectful language. It's a difficult problem because you are new to the team. Some people would just let the situation go, but you challenge the person calmly and professionally, and there is a successful result, a successful outcome. And again, you can see how good the STAR technique is: situation, task, action, and result. You should use it when answering every behavioral interview question. Before we move on to the next one, let me give you some different examples of dealing with difficult problems in the workplace. You could choose a time when you dealt with a supplier who keeps letting down the company. You take the initiative and source a new supplier on better terms before letting the other supplier go. Your actions result in a better service to customers and also a cost saving for the company. Another example of a difficult workplace problem is a time when you have to work long hours to solve a company issue, such as the website goes down. You agree to stay behind late after work to resolve the problem. You assess the issue and you decide to hire an online contractor to look into the problem and get the website back up and running again before going home. So you resolve that difficult problem before you go home. It's a really good example answer. Let's now move on to behavioral interview question number 3. This is a really difficult one. Tell me about a time you failed. Now, lots of people answer this by saying, I've never failed, I don't fail, I'm really good at my work. That's not the best answer to give. The best answer is where you give an example of a time you actually failed, but you took responsibility for it, you learnt, and then improved. That is what the hiring manager is looking for from your answer. So let me now give you a strong answer to this question. Tell me about a time you failed that uses that STAR technique: situation, task, action, and result. Here we go. Tell me about a time you failed. In my last job, I asked a co-worker to complete some work for me as part of a time-sensitive project. It was my task to ensure he knew exactly what to do and the time frame I needed the work completed by. Now, unfortunately, I made a mistake. I gave my co-worker the instructions via telephone and failed to follow up by email. When he sent me the finished work, it was incomplete, which meant I had to do it myself. I apologized to my manager for my mistake and worked additional hours to meet the deadline. Now, the project was still completed on time and I learnt a lot from the experience. Whenever I now pass on instructions, I give them verbally and in writing and confirm the recipient fully understands. So that's a really good example answer of a time you failed. Let me give you some other examples. So you could say, in your hastiness to get started, you don't fully listen to your manager's brief on a particular task. Now, because you didn't listen properly, you don't complete the task as required. You apologize, redo the work, and learn from the experience. Another example of failing at work is you complete a training course at work but fail the end of course exam because you didn't study for it, because you thought you knew everything. You apologize for failing, redo the course, and study for the exam. Now, after passing, you put things in place to ensure the same situation never happens again. And you can see the responses using the STAR technique: situation, task, action, result. They always have a positive outcome because you take responsibility for your failure and you learn from it. So there is a positive outcome. It shows you to be a mature and professional employee, which is what the hiring manager is looking for. Here is the next behavioral interview question. Describe a time when you disagreed with your boss. Now, the worst type of answer is when you say, I've never disagreed with my boss. I wouldn't do because they are always right. That's not the way to respond to it. The best answer is where you disagree with your boss about something that could negatively impact the company. Let me give you a really good example answer that uses a STAR technique. Describe a time when you disagreed with your boss. I was interacting with a loyal company customer who wanted a refund on a product they had purchased. Now, the time permitted for a refund had passed and my manager was refusing to honour it. It was my task to speak to my manager and explain why I felt this wasn't the right decision to make. I explained to my manager that the customer had been with the company for several years and they had purchased many products from us. If we refused to give the refund, I felt they could take their business elsewhere. The cost of the product was minimal and I felt it would be wise for us to give the customer the refund. After listening to my reasons, my manager changed his mind and agreed to honour the full refund. That is a really clever answer because it shows you care about the customer, you care about the company, and you don't want the company to lose out if the customer decides to go elsewhere. So you are prepared to challenge your boss calmly and professionally. Let me give you some other examples of disagreeing with your boss in the workplace. So you could say you disagree with the comments your manager makes during an appraisal of your work. So they criticise you for work you have apparently not done. But you have worked really hard and you feel their comments are unjustified. So you explain calmly and professionally why you feel they are wrong and you provide evidence to the contrary. Another example of disagreeing with your boss is you disagree with your boss about the way to market a new company product. Your boss suggests that you market the product offline on places such as in local shops and also in magazines. However, you think it would be better to market the product online so you can track sales and keep a check on the marketing budget return. So there's two alternative examples. Behavioural interview question number 5, the one that comes up a lot during job interviews, is tell me about a time when you had a conflict with a co-worker. Now, the best answer is where you work hard to establish the reason for the conflict and you then find an amicable way forward that is in the best interests of the team. When you answer this common behavioural interview question, make sure you put the needs of the team first. Here's my top scoring example answer that uses that brilliant STAR method, the STAR technique of situation, task, action and result. Tell me about a time when you had a conflict with a co-worker. I was working on a project with a co-worker who had a different style of working to me. Now, we clashed several times about how to approach the project. He was very methodical, but we didn't have much time to get the work completed, and I felt the deadline would be missed. It was my task to overcome the conflict and encourage him to work faster for the benefit of the project. So I spoke to my co-worker in private and expressed my concerns about the project deadline. I told him I felt his method of working was exceptional, but that it wasn't suitable for this particular project. We had a very tight deadline to meet, and if we missed it, the consequences would be damaging to the company. By being tactful and respectful, I managed to get my co-worker to increase his speed of work, and the project was a success. That's a really good example answer, and you are being tactful when you say to him, I feel your method of working is exceptional, but it doesn't work for this project. And you're focusing on the needs of the team, that deadline. You need to get the project finished on time. You do all you can to achieve that goal. Let me give you some other examples of conflicts with co-workers. So you start work in a new job and a co-worker is dismissive of your ideas during team meetings. You speak to the co-worker in private and ask them why they are being dismissive and explain that you just want to help the team. Now, once you have challenged them, again, calmly and professionally, they are more receptive to your ideas and the relationship improves. So you overcome the conflict yourself. You are mature and professional. And again, you put the needs of the team first. Let me give you another example. You are working on a project with a co-worker from a different department. Now, you both have very different ideas about how to complete the project, and there's a clash. You then sit down with your co-worker and focus on the project priorities to find an amicable way forward that uses a combination of both your ideas, and the project is a huge success. Again, you are putting the needs of the team first, and that's important when answering conflicting interview questions. Here's the next behavioural interview question. Tell me about a time you had to make a decision with limited information. This is one of the hardest behavioural interview questions to answer. However, the best type of answer is where you assess your options and then make the best decision that has limited risk to the team or company. Let me give you an example answer that uses the STAR technique: situation, task, action and result. Tell me about a time you had to make a decision with limited information. I was working in a new company department and we had to choose new suppliers. Now, because this was a new department, we had no previous information about which suppliers provided the best service and value for money. It was my task to consider the options from the suppliers available and decide which ones to use that represented the least risk to the business. I created a list of all the suppliers that were available and categorized them based on the time they'd been in business, their reviews, and the level of service they offered. I then spoke to each supplier in person to determine the terms they could offer. After assessing the options, I decided to go with a supplier that had a great track record and reviews and that offered us 60-day payment terms. So you are assessing the information you have and you are taking a common sense and logical approach to the situation. Let me give you another example of making decisions with limited information. So you could say you are tasked with setting the budget for a project you have never done before. There are lots of variables you are unsure about, but you assess the project requirements, speak to people in your network who have experience in similar projects to gather as much information as possible, and you then set the budget based on the facts you have available and worst case scenarios. Another example of making a decision with limited information is your manager is on leave and you've been asked to create the staffing schedule for the working week. You've never done this type of work before and you want to get it right. So you look back at historical sales and workload to determine how busy the company has been during the same period in recent years. You then use this information to set the correct staffing schedule. Now, I hope you've enjoyed this tutorial. So the next thing I want you to do, if you want to download these slides with all the answers, the examples and the tips, plus an additional 27 different responses to common behavioural interview questions, is click that link in the top right hand corner of the video. Head straight through to my website, passmyinterview.com, and you can instantly download, as I said, these slides. You get everything we've worked through together today, plus an additional 27 alternative answers to common behavioural interview questions. It comes as a PDF guide, which means you can have it in your inbox within 2 minutes from now. Check out that link. Also, please give the video a like. That does motivate me to create more content for you. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Thousands of you, and I mean thousands of you, genuinely are passing your interviews at the first attempt. I can only help you if you are subscribed. And don't forget to connect with me on LinkedIn. I have put my LinkedIn link in the description below the video. It is always a pleasure to connect with like-minded professionals such as yourself. Thank you for watching, and I wish you all the best for passing your job interview. Have a wonderful day.